I first noticed him strutting past the lobby like he'd already bought the place. Expensive Italian loafers clicking against the marble floor, louder than necessary. Didn't introduce himself. Didn't make eye contact. Didn't even pause to look around. Just marched in with that polished aluminum briefcase and an expression that screamed he'd already decided everything. His name was Derek Sullivan, our new CEO. Maybe 38, 39. The kind of young that doesn't bring fresh ideas. It brings arrogance. Guys like Derek walk in thinking they're the rescue squad. Reality is, they don't know the first damn thing about how the gears actually turn. I'd been sitting in my corner office, working on my fourth espresso of the day and reviewing last quarter supplier negotiations. The door to the executive wing swung open, and there he stood. Immaculate suit, no overcoat despite the freezing weather outside. Tall, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. Corporate had blasted out one of those hollow emails the previous week. We're excited to announce Derek Sullivan as our new CEO, leading Landmark Industries into a dynamic new phase of operational excellence. That kind of corporate drivel. You read enough of those over 23 years, and you learn to decode the real message hiding behind the buzzwords. Quick note before we continue. Drop a comment telling us which city or country you're tuning in from. He didn't stop at my office. Didn't glance inside. Nothing. Just walked right past like I was furniture. I wasn't executive level, but I wasn't invisible either. 23 years at Landmark Industries. Started in supply chain management. Transitioned to global partnerships. Spent the past 12 years managing our most critical international accounts, particularly Horizon Manufacturing out of Tokyo. I'd witnessed CEOs come and go. Some made the rounds, shaking hands. Some delivered inspirational speeches. This one moved like he owned the oxygen in the building. And maybe he did. That briefcase wasn't just carrying documents. It was carrying decisions that had already been made without us. I stood up and closed my door. Not out of fear. I just didn't want to be observed when the inevitable announcement dropped. The office always gets strange when someone like Derek arrives. Even the air changes. The silence becomes heavier. People lower their voices instinctively. You can sense the anxiety before it shows up in your email. Nobody articulated it directly, but we all understood someone was getting eliminated, maybe an entire division. And once the cuts begin, they don't stop at underperformers. They go wherever the spreadsheet points. I sat back down, cracked my neck, and opened the Horizon file. If I was going to get axed, I'd go out doing my job properly. But I knew better. Guys like Derek don't care about your track record. They only care about what you cost them. And I was about to cost him more than he could possibly afford. By Wednesday of his second week, you could feel it hanging in the air like static before a storm. Quiet meetings started appearing behind frosted glass doors. Human resources moved through the hallways like specters, avoiding direct eye contact. You catch fragments of hushed conversations, and then silence. No formal announcements, no company-wide emails, just people vanishing. First to disappear were the department heads. Competent people. Reliable. They understood the systems from the ground up. People who didn't need coaching or PowerPoint presentations to explain their value. They kept the machine running without demanding recognition. One by one, they were just gone. Some cleaned out their desks in silence. Some didn't even get that courtesy. They'd walk into a closed-door meeting and never return to their workspace. Their replacements materialized the same afternoon. All Derek's recruits. You could identify them instantly by their appearance. Designer suits, silk pocket squares, watches that cost more than most people's cars. Fresh from professional networking sites, armed with empty jargon and manufacturer enthusiasm. One of them wandered by my desk, putting on a friendly act. Hey, do we maintain a current contact database for all partner-side operations managers? I couldn't locate it in the cloud storage. I stared at him. You mean the database we discontinued 6 years ago when we consolidated international partnerships? That database. He blinked like I'd spoken in code. Oh, I'll check with someone else. I didn't bother explaining further. He wouldn't survive 8 months. They called it modernization. Installed digital displays, adjustable workstations, even an organic coffee bar on the top floor. Like furniture equaled innovation. What they actually accomplished was gutting the institutional memory. They ripped out the understanding of how things functioned and replaced it with overconfident incompetence. These newcomers excelled at talking rapidly and producing nothing of substance. Meanwhile, I kept my focus on the Tokyo accounts. Horizon was deep into their strategic planning phase. Timelines, manufacturing schedules, new distribution frameworks. Things we'd invested years building trust around. One wrong move, and they'd terminate the partnership. But I could see what was coming. Derek was operating too fast. Recklessly fast. I recognized the pattern. Layoffs first, restructuring next, then redundancy audits. He wasn't making decisions with people in consideration. It was all metrics and appearances. On Thursday, I walked past the kitchen area and saw Monica from finance quietly cry in the corner. I didn't ask what happened. I already knew. Her supervisor was gone. Her backup was gone. And some 30-year-old with an MBA from Stanford was now dictating how she should do a job she'd mastered better than anyone for 17 years. The worst aspect? Nobody spoke up. That's how fear operates. It doesn't announce itself. It suffocates. I stayed quiet too. I'd seen this scenario before. Different executives. Same outcome. But every time Derek walked past me, my instincts screamed louder. He still hadn't spoken a single word to me. Still hadn't inquired about Horizon or the other international partnerships I maintained. Hell, he probably couldn't even identify what I contributed. I was a budget line to him. Salary plus benefits. Nothing more. I worked late most nights that week. Not because I was afraid. Because I understood the axe swings wildly when the person wielding it doesn't know what he's cutting. So I stayed sharp, filed documentation early, flagged potential issues in the Japan account with complete supporting evidence, covered myself thoroughly, because I wasn't going to plead for a position at a table I'd built myself. I was going to ensure that if he came for me, it would cost him more than he could recover from. The following Thursday, we were all packed into the main presentation hall. Same stale coffee, same uncomfortable chairs, same tension you could slice with a blade. Derek stood at the front, sleeves rolled up, gesturing like he was delivering a keynote address, eliminating inefficiency, consolidating operations, strategic reallocation of resources. He spoke like he'd invented these concepts yesterday. A handful of the new hires nodded enthusiastically. The rest of us sat motionless. Nobody wanted to react incorrectly. Then he delivered the real blow. Every division will undergo comprehensive evaluation over the next 14 days. Top to bottom. No exemptions. I didn't react. Didn't raise questions. I just observed. Shoulders stiffening. Lips pressed into thin lines. A couple people glanced at their phones, probably checking account balances or messaging family members. Some of us had children in university. Some had mortgages newer than this CEO. He continued like we were a room full of trainees. We're constructing more efficient frameworks, more intelligent operations. Every position must demonstrate quantifiable impact. That phrase, quantifiable impact, might as well have been a death sentence. Guys like Derek don't recognize relationships or history, just columns and calculations. Loyalty means nothing when someone's chasing performance bonus. After the meeting dissolved, people dispersed quickly. You could sense it. Everyone scrambling to appear productive. Stay visible. Stay valuable. I was collecting my materials when I heard him behind me. Hey, you, remind me of your name again. I turned around. Mitchell. Alex Mitchell. He nodded like he was pretending to remember. Right. What's your function here exactly? I kept my tone even. I oversee our Japanese partnership accounts. Not just correspondence. Cultural navigation. Contracts. Reputation. Trust. Particularly Horizon manufacturing. He stared blankly, like I just recited instructions for assembling furniture in another language. Then he produced this tight, artificial smile. Right. Yeah. Appreciate what you're doing. We're going to be outsourcing most of that shortly. Then he simply walked away. Just like that. Half a conversation. Zero comprehension. Outsourcing to whom? Some overseas contractor who barely understands the time difference, let alone the intricate dynamics of a $1 billion Japanese manufacturing relationship. I returned to my office and shut the door. Didn't sit down. Just stood there for a moment, staring at the wall. He had absolutely no understanding of what I actually did. He didn't comprehend the business dinners, the international flights, the ceremonial gift exchanges, the countless hours invested earning trust one careful step at a time. He didn't grasp how quickly you could lose a client like Horizon simply by mishandling a single interaction, not because of pricing, because of respect. I sat down and opened the current project documentation. We were weeks away from a major partnership renewal. If we mishandled it, that contract would die. And if that contract died, the entire international division would hemorrhage revenue. Around 3 o'clock, I passed human resources on my way to break room. The director was exiting her office, spotted me, paused, gave me this tense half nod, like she wanted to communicate something but couldn't. She looked slightly pale, hands fidgeting with a folder. That's when I knew my number was coming up. Friday morning, the email arrived at 8:17. Subject line, meeting 10:45 a.m. No agenda, no context, just Derek and HR listed as participants. Didn't need a decoder to understand what that meant. The office was unnaturally quiet when I walked in. You could tell people knew. Heads remained down, monitors stayed lit. Nobody made eye contact. HR had already positioned themselves near the conference room, folder in hand, coffee untouched. I organized my desk methodically and carefully. Not sentimental, just thorough. Monitor centered. Pencil holder returned to its spot. Notepad closed. 23 years, and that's what it reduced to. A tidy workspace before the final walk. At 10:44, I knocked once and entered. Derek was already there, leaning back casually like it was just another routine check-in. He smiled, practiced and hollow. The HR director sat rigid beside him, wearing that same pale expression I'd noticed yesterday. "Alex," he said, artificially cheerful. "Thanks for making time." I sat down, didn't bother with pleasantries. He launched directly into his script. We've been analyzing operational efficiencies across departments and identified some redundancies in international operations. The organization is moving in a fresh direction, leaner, more agile. HR nodded mechanically. He continued, "We genuinely appreciate your years of contribution. Really, this isn't performance-related. It's structural." I could have recited it alongside him. Every phrase was refined corporate garbage, boilerplate for an execution. When he finally paused, I looked him directly in the eyes. "You're confident you can manage without me?" He actually chuckled. "We'll be absolutely fine." That was it. That was the moment I decided he wasn't worth my anger. He was worth proving catastrophically wrong. He slid a manila envelope across the conference table. "This contains your severance package, accumulated vacation, all the specifics." I didn't touch it. Didn't even acknowledge the HR director. Just met his gaze and said, "Then I suppose we're finished here." He reached out like he might offer a handshake, but I was already standing, pulling on my coat. "Then that concludes this," I said. The envelope remained on the table. 23 years erased in under 12 minutes. No handshake, no acknowledgement, just a folder and a fabricated smile. When I stepped into the corridor, it seemed longer than usual. People at their workstations maintained the illusion of productivity. Nobody met my eyes. I didn't hold it against them. I'd seen that expression before. The one that says, "Thank God it's not me." I pushed through the main entrance and hit the downpour. Not a light drizzle either. The steady, penetrating kind that soaks through your shoes before you reach your vehicle. Didn't bother running. Just kept walking across the parking lot, feeling the water slide down my collar, saturated my shirt. No tears, no trembling, nothing theatrical. Just a calm I hadn't experienced in years. Because beneath all that noise and rain, I knew something Derek didn't. Things were about to shift. Not immediately, but inevitably. I didn't go back inside when I arrived home that Friday. I sat in the car for nearly 90 minutes, Rain drumming the windshield while the engine ticked in the cold. Didn't call anyone. Didn't need to. That weekend, I cleared out my home office, shredded a cabinet full of expired contracts, organized what I needed, boxed everything else, wiped my personal laptop. I maintained it meticulously over the years, mostly from habit. Now it looked clinical, like a space awaiting its next chapter. A few text messages trickled in from former colleagues. Sorry, man. Brutal move. That sort of thing. One brave individual even asked if I was all right. Most stayed silent. I didn't blame them. Fear's deafening when it's close. But Sunday evening, a name appeared I hadn't seen in years. Kevin Marsh. We'd met at an industry conference back in Seattle. He was directing strategy for a specialized consulting firm at the time, Patterson and Stone. Solid professional. Sharp. He'd heard. His message was direct. You available to talk Monday morning? I have a proposal for you. At 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into their office downtown. Glass architecture. No pretension, no artificial plants, no motivational slogans plastered on whiteboards. Just professionals who understood what they were doing. Kevin shook my hand like it carried weight. We talked for 25 minutes. No presentations, no corporate speak. He already understood what I brought to the table. By noon, I had a written offer. Better compensation, more autonomy, and most importantly, respect. That evening, I poured a glass of scotch and sat on the back deck. First time in months, I didn't feel like I was bracing for disaster. But the story wasn't finished. Not even remotely. Tuesday morning, I receive a message from a contact still at Landmark. Derek replaced you with a rotating support team out of Manila. Of course he did. Cheaper on paper. Simpler to control. Too bad he didn't understand a single thing about how Japanese clients think. 3 hours later, another message arrived. This one made me smile. He called you a roadblock. Said you were clinging to outdated methods. Roadblock? Absolutely. I was. That roadblock had held together half the international revenue. They were now fumbling to maintain. He thought I was eliminated. But I was just getting started planning. Because Derek wasn't going to fail quietly, and I wasn't going to prevent it. By week's end, I'd already learned the Tokyo delegation was flying in. Mr. Tanaka himself. 4-year renewal on the table. One of Landmark's most significant international contracts. $22 million tied to a handshake and substantial trust. Monday, 10 a.m. sharp. Derek sat in the Landmark boardroom with his new operations director, 3 junior analysts, and someone video conferencing from Manila. All of them fresh, all of them clueless. I wasn't physically present. Didn't need to be. I watched it unfold from my office downtown. Kevin had connections everywhere. They started the meeting with standard protocol. Refreshments, introductions, some preliminary conversation. Derek took point. Probably believed his charisma could bridge the gap. He dove straight into his pitch. Buzzwords and analytics. Charts projected on screens. Talked about synergistic efficiency and global optimization. Smiled like he was granting them a favor. Mr. Tanaka didn't smile back. He sat with hands folded, expression neutral. That polite silence the Japanese maintain when they're determining if you're worth their time. I'd seen it before. I knew that look intimately. Derek continued. Made jokes about Landmark being streamlined and dynamic. Referred to them as established partners, like that was flattering. They barely acknowledged him. Then halfway through presentation, Tanaka raised a hand. Didn't elevate his voice. Didn't appear angry. We would like to speak with Mr. Mitchell. Derek blinked. Beat too long. I'm sorry. Mr. Mitchell is no longer with the company. We've enhanced efficiency through a new support infrastructure. Tanaka didn't react. That was an error. That's all he said. He stood. The other 2 executives with him stood as well. They bowed. Derek froze. Perhaps we will reconsider discussions at a future time. Tanaka added as they departed. No handshake. No second opportunity. By 11:20, the contract was dead. $22 million vanished before lunch. I sat at my desk, leaned back, and gazed out across the downtown skyline. Didn't smile. Didn't celebrate. Just watch the emails start flooding in. A client like Horizon doesn't just leave. When they leave, others notice. By 2 o'clock, Landmark's legal department was attempting damage control. Someone from their executive assistant pool contacted Patterson and Stone requesting a confidential meeting. I didn't respond. Derek had no comprehension of how catastrophically he just failed himself. That contract wasn't just revenue. It was credibility. It was a foundation supporting his entire transformation strategy. And he destroyed it with both hands. Back at Patterson and Stone, Kevin stopped by my office late afternoon. "Was that the major one?" he asked. I nodded. "That was Tanaka." He gave a low whistle. "Think they'll recover?" "Not quickly enough," I said, closing my laptop. "They broke something they didn't understand. That doesn't repair easily." Outside, the sun was already dropping low over the skyline. I grabbed my coat and keys. One door had closed, but this one opened wide. I was halfway through drafting a proposal when my phone rang Thursday afternoon. Number displayed with a familiar area code, but I recognized that voice before he identified himself. "Hey, Alex," Derek said, attempting casual, like we were old acquaintances. "Thought maybe we could connect, discuss possibilities, maybe bring you back in a consulting capacity." I let him talk. His tone was light, but there was tension underneath, something rushed, anxious, the kind of panic you can't quite mask. Translation: the walls were closing in, and he needed someone to fix his disaster. "I'm open to a discussion," I said. "You know where to reach me." He asked if we could meet that evening. I told him no. Friday, 9 a.m., my office. He hesitated for half a beat too long, then agreed. Next morning, he arrived 7 minutes early, smiling like none of it had happened. Sharp suit, that same aluminum briefcase. But the shine was fading. I let him in, closed the door, didn't offer refreshments. He stood awkwardly briefly, then eased into the chair across from me. "Appreciate you making time," he said, like I didn't know he'd been cornered. I was thinking with the current situation, maybe there's an opportunity here. I waited. "We don't need to make this formal," he continued. "No title, no announcements. Just help us stabilize things with Horizon. Quietly. Informally," I said. He leaned back. "Exactly." I leaned back, kept my expression neutral. "You want me to repair the damage you caused to your own operation?" He gave that nervous laugh, tried to deflect. "Come on, let's not characterize it that way." I nodded slowly. "Sure." His eyes brightened. "Really?" "Yeah," I said, "but on my terms." He shifted in the chair. "Okay, what terms?" "You'll find out." He laughed again, but quieter this time. Uncertain. I didn't. He left 25 minutes later. Didn't shake my hand on the way out this time. That weekend, I got to work. Not on their problems. On mine. On my plan. The real one. Quiet. Precise. Permanent. I didn't care about rescuing Landmark. I wasn't returning to fix anything. I was returning to finish something. And I didn't sure Derek never saw it coming. Monday morning, I walked back into Landmark for the first time since the rain. No welcome, no announcement. Just a temporary visitor badge clipped to my belt and a list of contacts to support printed by HR. The receptionist didn't even look up when I signed in. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. Slower, quieter. Let me observe who remained. Some familiar faces. Some new ones. All of them moving quickly, but appearing lost. Derek was in a meeting when I arrived, which suited me fine. I wasn't there for conversation. By 2 p.m., I regained access to the partnership database through one of the junior analysts. He handed me a laptop with everything accessible. "If you need anything else, just contact tech support," he said. I nodded, then closed it and pulled out my own. By 3 o'clock, I'd already dialed Mr. Tanaka. He answered on the second ring. "Mitchell-san," he said, calm but edged. "I want to be transparent." I told him. No script. I didn't leave Landmark voluntarily. I was terminated, replaced with consultants who didn't understand the relationship or the culture. "I'm not asking for anything. You just deserve the truth." He paused. "Where are you now?" "Patterson, and Stone. Build on respect, not quarterly targets. Then perhaps we should bring our business to someone who understands partnership. He disconnected. By Friday, we met off-site. Private room, no slides, no contracts. Just Tanaka's team, Patterson and Stone executives, and me. The handshake said enough. Within a week, Derek's operation started fracturing. A Denver distributor walked. An Ohio manufacturer suspended payments. Staff resigned in pairs. The office went silent. Friday morning, I sent Derek 6 words. Need to discuss. Let me know. He replied immediately. Conference room B, 145. Same room where he'd fired me. When I walked in, he looked 15 pounds lighter, tie loosened, eyes bloodshot. We need to correct course, he said. With your help, we can salvage this. I sat slowly. You're talking like we're partners. We're not. He blinked. You're not my boss, Derek. You're my cautionary tale. I paused. Tanaka's contract. That's ours now. The color drained from his face. I didn't do this to you, I said, standing. You did. I walked out. By quarter's end, the board removed Derek. They brought in a Boston executive to clean up, but the clients that mattered had already crossed the street. A few weeks later, walking to lunch, I glanced at Landmark's building. Smaller somehow. Blinds closed. Lights off. Chrome lettering tarnished. I didn't stop. Just kept walking. I didn't need to burn it down. I just opened a door and let the wind do the rest. Derek? I heard he's trying to start some consulting operation.